County.
Hello and welcome to the special edition COVID-19 Rogers Television program dedicated to providing you and your family with information about the resources and services available during this pandemic. My name is Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guests to the program, for those of you who watch regularly, you know that I like to say a few words of thanks at the beginning. So as we move through phase 2 of the reopening of our province, we celebrate the lifting of some of the public health restrictions and are hopeful that we can continue to move towards phase 3 of this plan. Significant attention to the details required to keep the public and to keep employees safe is very clear and obvious in the various businesses and services that are reopening. But they need our support to follow their instructions and their directions as we keep working together to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Everywhere we look, there are positive signs of recovery in the faces of loved ones, friends, and neighbors who are able to meet, greet, and participate in their own unique social bubbles. We know that the situation is fluid, and we must stay vigilant to be able to continue to experience and enjoy the relaxation of some of these restrictions. We also know, however, that this situation can change as the number of COVID-19 cases continues to be monitored very closely by public health. Without a doubt, we in our community have forged new linkages, unique and unexpected alliances, and networks as we continue to meet the needs of our community in this pandemic. We are all anxious to have our lives get back to normal, although we know that the new normal looks very different than it did a few months ago. We are anxious to move forward, and those on the front lines are weary. Thank you to all in our community who continue to provide the supports and the services needed, to the Public Health Medical Officer of Health and the Public Health Unit staff, to all of our frontline and essential workers, as well as our community support services for their ongoing efforts to keep us all safe. We will get through this together, and we will be stronger than ever. And on that note, I am absolutely delighted to welcome back to the program James Scongack, who is the Executive Vice President, Corporate Affairs and Operational Services at Bruce Power. James, you're here today to give us an update on some of the initiatives that you have done through Bruce Power, not just for your industry, but also community and broader initiatives. So welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Well, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So where would you like to begin? Because I've been getting news releases about all the exciting things Bruce Power has been doing, but I really want to turn it over to you. And then if there's questions, I'll just pop in with a question.
No, that sounds good. Well, thanks very much for having me, and I completely agree with your opening comments. I think they're very appropriate. If you take a step back, I think when we started having some of these conversations on the program back in it was probably late March, early April, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of concern, and well, as you noted, we have a very long way to still go as a community and as a province. I think if you look at how Grey Bruce stacks up against other regions of the province, I think we're one of the lowest in the province. Even when you consider population, we haven't had a death from COVID-19. So, that's obviously a tremendous amount of success to build on, and all the people you recognized, I think, are worthy of that recognition. But it also means that the rigor that we've put into collectively as a community, putting these prevention measures in place, that our collective efforts need to remain focused on, what do we do to maintain that really important track record? Because ultimately the track record is about people's health and wellness, and in some cases life or death. Maybe where I'll start is, is really in the area of personal protective equipment. So this has continued to be a real challenge for jurisdictions around the world as demand has outstripped supply. And the good news is that we are starting to see in the personal protective equipment market really two things. We're seeing the capacity start to increase globally. And we're also starting to see a number of Ontario suppliers, even nuclear suppliers that we have worked to retool, now getting up to full capability. So, and I think what's really important is that we never get in a situation again where, nurses don't have masks, where frontline workers don't have masks, where people working in long-term care homes don't have masks. So I think we need to stay vigilant on that. From a Bruce Power perspective, maybe there's a few initiatives that would be helpful for me to maybe start with today. And the first is in that area of personal protective equipment. So we announced earlier this week an additional contribution of 150,000 masks that we'll be donating to the community across Grey Bruce and Huron counties. And that will essentially put our total amount of PPE that we've donated across the province and locally since April 1st at about 1.5 million pieces of PPE. So, we're very proud of that, and it's been able to ensure that folks have what they need. More locally, if we're looking ahead, the priority is for us to donate a lot of single-use masks to small businesses. But 120,000 of the 150,000 pieces of PPE will be to small businesses, places of worship, food banks, and other areas that are deemed to be higher risk, if we can characterize it as that. And the other 30,000 masks are going to be permanent reusable masks that we'll be doing a similar distribution to. And I think masks is a really important area for us to speak to because there's been a lot of different opinions about masks, and what we consistently see around the world, and we've mandated mask use for all employees on our site. Okay. So if you're on the Bruce Power site today and you're working, you're given a mask every morning, and the expectation is to rigorously use it throughout your workday. And what all of the data has told us is that jurisdictions that use masks or work sites that use masks, it is a very important tool against the spread of COVID-19. It has some modest protection towards you as an individual, but it has more protection if you do have COVID and potentially exposing other people. So I think the famous saying goes, my mask protects you and your mask protects me. And we need to, I think we all need to really encourage our friends and neighbors to be wearing masks in the community. Obviously, the wearing of a mask is not, as Dr. Era reminds us, is not in place of physical distancing and is not in place of hand washing and cleaning. So those have to be together. But I think our ability to really get back to business is going to be really driven by the use of those things that Dr. Era is talking about, the hand washing, the physical distancing, but everybody should be wearing masks. Everybody should be wearing a face covering. There's no reason why anybody should be out in the community in a public place without a face covering. So you're going to see us not only distribute and contribute to that, but promote that and advertise that, because I think that's very important. What small businesses cannot afford is a scenario where we let our public health gains get away on us and we have to go back into shutdown again. So everything we're doing is about ensuring we don't go back to where we were. So that's really the priority from a PPE and communications perspective. We're also looking into July here with what we can do to support public health and the community. We know the federal and provincial governments are coming out with a tracing app, and it's really important that people all download that on their phones. The governments have carried out a lot of work to make sure that those protect people's privacy. There's no personal information shared, but it's really a tool that as we have extra testing, which was something that was really needed, that through this app, it'll make it a lot easier for public health to go and contact trace if somebody is positive, to understand who they may have been in contact with. So that's a very innovative technology. And so I think the combination of those things are going to really allow us to open up the economy, and we're doing our part to support that.
Excellent. I'm wondering if we could just chat a little bit. Now, I understand that you have a bulk buying type of program that might be available in the future for PPE. Is that correct? Or because for some small businesses or organizations, when they only buy in small amounts, there's an increased cost if they can even get them. That's the other issue. So it seems to me that Bruce Power has something planned to help the community.
Yeah, that's right. And so in mid-July here, we're focused on getting these 150,000 pieces of PPE out first and foremost. In mid-July, we're going to be announcing an initiative called Strength in Numbers. And really what this is it's exactly as you articulated. You explained it better than I will, which is, when you're buying things like personal protective equipment, if you can go buy 1 million masks, you can get masks for $1, $1.10 a piece. If you are a small business, let's say, and I'm just giving an example, I'm not sure what the price would be, but if you're a small business in, let's say, Owen Sound or Port Elgin or Kincardine, and you want to go buy 50 masks, chances are you're purchasing masks at $3 to $5 a piece. Mm-hmm. And for small businesses that are already dealing with smaller volumes of customers, they've been, in many cases have been out a lot of revenue. Every dollar counts right now. So what we're putting together is a Strength in Numbers campaign where across Grey Bruce, Huron counties, across our own nuclear supply chain across the province, so all of the 300 to 500 companies directly and indirectly that do business with us, and frankly, any other partners, whether it's the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, we're going to have 2 intake points in July and September where we're going to be launching a website, and what that website will have is a portal where people can put a request in for personal protective equipment. We're going to have a volume price point, and we're going to go and do 2 very large orders of personal protective equipment and try to get that volume discount. And so basically, this is something Bruce Power is going to sponsor and do, and really the only cost that will apply to the products will be the cost of actually buying the PPE and of course shipping it. But the concept here is that we need to come together as a province and a region, as an industry, and anybody else that wants to be a part of that is going to be welcome to. Where you don't have to buy 1,000 masks when you only need 50, and that some businesses can't operate without this. So that's an issue called Strength in Numbers. We're going to try to leverage our buying power. What it will also do is allow us to go to some of the Ontario suppliers that are now making these materials and give them a bit of better certainty as well. Because as you can imagine, it's a higher cost for them to provide products if they're doing them in small orders versus large pieces. And we'll be using some of our community partnerships and our volunteers and organizations, employees to help us distribute that PPE.
Excellent. So, you have been so generous in donating masks, and now it sounds like the transitioning is to be able to help others and empower others to be able to move from a purely donation model to obtaining ongoing at a reduced cost to supply their own needs. So it's moving more towards that, but still providing the vehicle to help people to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We're a large organization, obviously, that wants to contribute, but we also all businesses are under financial constraints and strains. We've had the same market issues. We have funds invested in markets. We have bondholders. So we're a private business as well, and I'm really proud that we've been able to make some donations. But to your point, I think you explained it quite well. We're saying, okay, we want to make this sustainable now, and we think here is something we can offer the community. We can offer these partners in a way that's somewhat of a donation to us, but cost neutral, and that's exactly right. It's making it more sustainable.
Yeah, exactly. Where people can leverage off the bulk buying power because, and I think that's an amazing community support for sure. Other initiatives that you're moving forward to, are there some others that you'd like to share? Or shall I ask you some questions?
You're welcome to.
So the rapid testing, there's a plan for rapid testing with, and I wonder if you can talk about what that means and who the partners will be.
Yeah, absolutely. So earlier on in the pandemic, there was a joint partnership between Bruce Power, the Power Workers Union, which represents all of the workers in Ontario's, a large portion, I should say a large portion of the workers in Ontario's power sector. And we partnered with UHN to support the development of rapid testing capability. So we're going to be having actually a Facebook Live event coming up here in July with UHN to share more about that program. And one of the things we're looking into is, is there an opportunity for any of that rapid testing as they're deploying it in the early stages to be done here? So, first goal is, we're looking forward to sharing with people the work that UHN has underway. I also think UHN has a broader perspective that I think local residents will be interested in around, the status of vaccine developments and those various items. And we're going to be looking to work with UHN to see, what options, working with public health and our hospitals and doctors, what opportunities may there be for the region. So, I think the fact that a lot of this support has come from the power sector gives us a really good opportunity to see if we can leverage that. So, the good news across Ontario is the testing volumes are starting to really consistently demonstrate high numbers. You may recall back in sort of the April-May timeframe that the Premier rightfully was putting a lot of pressure on getting testing ramped up, and good for him. That's his job to push. And their goal was really to push 16,000, which was seen as 16,000 tests a day. That was seen as a really high watermark. And there's some days where they've been almost at 30,000. So that testing capability, but also starting to get into testing that provides other avenues, I think is really important. Over time, rapid testing, there's immunity testing, there's those things. And for us to really ever get back into full operation again, we need far greater testing.
Absolutely. And certainly the growth in testing is, as we open facilities like retirement homes and long-term care, that they're mandating before you come in, you have to be tested and COVID negative. So, it's an evolution, and it's a way of protecting people as well with the rapid testing to be able to start to reunite people who have not had that opportunity in the past. So a couple of other things. Earlier in our programming, we had some chatting about isotopes and perhaps using them for recycling of equipment. And I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that, if you recall, that's really unique to our site at Bruce Power is we generate we're one of the world's largest producers of an isotope called cobalt-60. Cobalt-60 really has two medical applications. The first is sterilization, and the second is treatment of breast cancer and brain tumors. So in the context of COVID, that sterilization piece is really important. So we've carried out one harvest of cobalt-60 this year. It was completed in March. And what we announced a number of weeks ago that we'll be completing a second harvest in the fall timeframe. Just to give you a bit of a sense, those two harvests together, we will send enough cobalt-60 to Ottawa-based Nordion, who's our partner in this, and they process it and distribute it around the world and here in Canada. We'll have provided enough cobalt-60 in 2020 to sterilize. Just to give you an idea, just pick one piece. It's multiple pieces of equipment, but just if you took one stream of equipment, if you looked at sterile gloves, we would have by the end of 2020 provided enough cobalt-60 to sterilize between 20 to 25 billion pairs of surgical gloves. That's billion with a B. So
wow.
Gives you just a sense of the size of that, and we would be about probably between over a third of the world's supply. So it's a really significant a role that Ontario is playing, and that's great news. We've been doing some work to look at, how can the sterilization be used around reusing medical equipment. We did do some testing with our partners at Nordion looking at N95 masks, because N95 masks, as you know, are in the typhus demand. When we did the testing on cobalt-60, we actually found it was so successful at sterilization, it actually weakened the properties of the N95 mask to a point that you wouldn't want to reuse it. So it was an experiment, one of the first that had been done during the pandemic. So it taught, we tried it. It didn't make sense, and it's not something we're proceeding with. But what we have done is working with a company out of Paisley called Aberflex in the county of Bruce. We purchased a piece of equipment that is coming into service in Paisley. It's going to be one of the hubs for the region. I believe Grey County also purchased one of those machines, as did Huron and Bruce County as well. And this is a machine that is going to be able to reuse N95 masks. And so through our contribution, the local system has free access to that. And then, of course, that business, we're letting them, provide that service more broadly. Overall, in areas like you think of the swabs that are used in COVID-19 testing, those are sterilized using cobalt-60. So you're seeing cobalt-60 be, quite dramatically expanded, and especially as the world's now trying to catch up its supply chain issues around PPE. But we did find with the N95 masks that the sterilization was actually so effective that it actually had other weakening principles in terms of the properties. So the N95 mask didn't work, but that's why you try things. You do them. You fail quickly, as I like to say, and you move on to the next thing. And so the solution we saw was that facility in Paisley.
Yeah, and from what you're describing, and people that I speak to on the program, we know COVID-19 is like a dark cloud, but there is a silver lining around that dark cloud. And businesses that are pivoting and linking, for example, with Bruce Power, are being given opportunities that actually may not have occurred before. So it's an interesting process. I'm wondering if you would mind speaking a little bit about Grey Bruce Huron Strong, your app.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to your point on the agility, when you're in a crisis situation like we've all been in together, you do move quickly. And I think we're all learning that, there's bureaucracy and red tape and things in all of our organizations that we need to sometimes be able to move quicker. And I think COVID-19 probably has taught us that we can move a lot more quickly on things, and we shouldn't be, as we always like to say, perfect should not be the enemy of the good. We should, try things, try to get them done. We launched an app called Grey Bruce Huron Strong with, it's something we did in partnership with a company called NPX Innovation, really smart individuals that provide us a range of services through NPX, but we partnered with them and the Nuclear Innovation Institute. And I think right now we have about 7,000 people across Grey Bruce, Huron counties have downloaded that app. And that app has, of course, public health information. It's going to be an app we continue to build out. There's a lot of information out there, but we do think people really value local. We've also added an online shopping component to Grey Bruce Huron Strong, where small businesses in the area at no charge can go on, register their businesses, and people can go on and purchase gift cards and support small businesses that way. And what I'd encourage people to do is, we're in a spot now where people are focused on the reopening. We hope we're not clamped down again. But, this is a really good platform for all local businesses to take advantage of. You can go on, there's a website set up, but you can Google Grey Bruce Huron Strong, and there's a website. There's also as I mentioned, you go on the App Store, the Android Store, and there's an app there. And I really encourage everybody to take advantage of it. It doesn't cost you anything. It's not a lot of work. And I think one of the things we have realized, if we talk to, and I have many friends who own small businesses, and it's been a tough time for them, is a lot of people wish they had diversified maybe before COVID, right? And nobody could have predicted what happened. So, but going forward, let's get, some of these businesses online. A lot of us are really quick to go on Amazon and order something. And well, that's great. We got to make sure our local businesses are there. Amazon's going to be fine. We need to make sure our local businesses are taken care of. And so this was meant to be something to help them.
Yeah, which is excellent. I mean, community survival, we're all part of a community, and we need to certainly reach out. So we have just a few more minutes in the program. Is there anything you'd like to highlight, or would you like to speak to the visitor center? Because I understand it's closed and going to have some facelifts. So we have a couple more minutes in the program. Did you want to talk about the visitor center?
Yeah, happy to talk about the visitor center. So in 2019, the visitor center, we had over 20,000 visitors at the visitor center, and half of those visitors were individuals that them and their families and guests to the region came and participated in our bus tour program. And to be frank, we weren't confident that, especially with the restrictions we have on site right now, limiting numbers, that it made sense to continue with that program. So we decided to, and we do tend to find the visitor center does not have a tremendous amount of activity from the December to March timeframe, aside from school groups. So and it's also uncertain as to what's happening with the school year. So we decided to close our visitor center through to the end of March of next year. It's going to have a bit of a facelift. It's a good time to do that. And what we're doing is partnering with organizations on various online programs. There's a coding academy from the Nuclear Innovation Institute that's available. And you're going to see us do other things. We were really disappointed to close the visitor center, but we think it's the right time to do that. And so we can reopen it. And what we didn't want to be doing was stopping and starting programs. And so that's where we landed, and then to redirect those resources into community programs, community school programs. Some of them you've seen, some of them are still being rolled out.
Bruce Power has contributed so much to our community, and we're very grateful. My question to you is, what can the community do to assist Bruce Power?
Well, it's really kind. And I mean, at the end of the day, one of the things that I grew up in Port Elgin, so I love living in small town rural Ontario. The thing about small town rural Ontario is everybody does what they can. So if I go to a charitable event, small businesses donate prizes, they donate goods, individuals volunteer, people contribute what they can. So the first thing I would say is, we're part of this community and we're doing what we can. Yeah. And so, we just have to recognize that's part of being in this community. So, we're not looking for anything in return, just like the small businesses that donate something aren't looking for return, or an individual volunteering isn't. It's the right thing to do. And I think that goes to our value. It goes to that culture we try to create in the business. The one area I would say is that if you look at this economically, because there's a big economic conversation, is the good thing about what is happening, it's a double-edged sword. It's not all good, but we're only all successful together. So if you look at the business community, if small businesses are not successful at reopening, businesses like Bruce Power won't be successful.
Exactly.
Or if businesses like Bruce Power are not successful reopening, small businesses won't be. And also, if individuals aren't healthy, which is something we want, the economy won't recover. So we're tied to each other here, and that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. And James, much as I hate to stop you because I could listen to you for a long time, I want to thank you. Our show is over, but certainly I welcome you back anytime. Thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you to the viewing audience for joining us today. Please take care of each other, and stay safe. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm Sharon Skelly, host of Community Close-Up. Please watch us every week here on Rogers TV.
Sometimes, for a wish to come true, it takes a kingdom, because together is stronger.